Hi, this is Steve. Today, talking about unions and why unions are important. Now, look, I grew up in a union household, and my parents were both teachers in the New York City school system, and they both belonged to the teachers union. And I really got a sense from them about the importance of an entity navigating and negotiating on behalf of a group of people so that they could do their best work. And that's really my thing about unions. It's so important for me as a writer and as an actor, and I'm in both WGA and SAG-AFTRA. It's so important to have an entity that is pushing for wages and working conditions that are really reasonable. Here's one story. I'm also in Actors Equity, which is the stage union. And when I was in New York, I was in a particular cabaret performance with somebody who had never directed before, had been renowned as a person who created cartoons and images and things like that. And that man was our director, and he kept moving the goalpost of rehearsal. He would say rehearsal is from 3 to 8, and then we'd get to 7:30, and then he would be like, you know what, we're going to keep going for another hour. Or we would get to 8, and he just wouldn't stop. And it was a very interesting circumstance because at the time, the other actors and I didn't really know what to do. We wanted to do our best. We wanted to go the extra mile, but it really was an abusive situation because after a while, people had things to do and families to go home to, and, they needed to get on their commute in order to get a train at a certain time or whatever it was. And it just became a really difficult circumstance. And so I am very grateful that I have a union behind me who can say at least what the minimums are for the amount that I should be paid, for the ways that I should work, a place where I can go in case something goes wrong, where I can say to somebody, this abusive thing is happening, and how do we deal with it? Or is there, a penalty? Or is there a rule book? Or is there something that I can point to? And I think the same thing was true back in the day when I was in that cabaret, but I felt too scared in some ways to lean into the power of my union. And I think that's fundamentally changed for me now, which is one of the reasons why I'm so connected to this current striking, this action that we're on. It's very important, I think, for us to have, as writers, a living wage, for us to have the opportunity to be involved in our craft to the extent where we get to go on set, to get residuals in the space of streaming, and to have an entity behind me rather than just me or a handful of writers saying this is what ought to be fair, is a very powerful, functional thing for a career like writing, which could end up disappearing without those kinds of guardrails in place. I think it's a very important and powerful thing for artists everywhere, all across this country, to have somebody to advocate for them in the way that the Writers Guild does for TV and film writers. And hopefully we'll find out, as we go along, as things evolve, hopefully things will turn out well in terms of the negotiation. But the bottom line is we're not alone, and I have a place to go to find out what the standards are for professional behavior. And I think certainly in a career like ours, which by its nature as a creative thing, people always want to move the goalposts, especially I think corporate people who see on some level what we do as far more malleable and far less important than some of the brick and mortar things that happen in other sectors of the country, of the workforce. And that's why I think unions are incredibly important. So I support you, whether you're in the union or not, to think about, consider, and join the union when you're able, to have those protections and standards so that you as an artist can know what the playing field should look like as you move through a particular creative and artistic career. Thanks for watching. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to this channel, go to yourcreativelife.com to find out more about me and my coaching, and to sign up for my free newsletter and check out the podcast, The Secret Writer Podcast. Thanks for watching. See you next time.